it would take a couple hours just to tell that story. So I'll just give you one example of just an offshoot of it, and that is that when you die, what you did on this earth does not necessarily determine where you're going to go. But what you've done on this earth, if you've been a bad girl or a bad boy, because you brought that energy around you, so to speak, you have not learned to walk with your spirit, who is going to guide you to the good place in the afterlife. So without that spiritual guidance, the temptations on the road of death with your spirit take you in the wrong direction, because temptations are not what you're supposed to be looking at. You're supposed to be looking at what it is that is a potential for good. You know, the seed in life is a potential for something good, because something's going to grow from it. But if you just look at the tree and say, oh, I just want the tree, well, eventually that tree is going to die. So you don't know the process. So if you don't learn the process in life because you're too busy being a miserable person and making everybody else's life miserable, then you're on your own, and you're going to follow those temptations on the road of death in the spirit life. And you're just going to end up in a place where you're going to be able to see other people walking by you going to the good place, but you're going to know you're in the wrong place. And that's for you forever, but forever is not like forever infinity. It's forever as in the point where you are just frustrated enough where your spirit actually dissolves, so to speak. It dissolves into nothingness. And so it never gets the ability to journey back to this world in certain ways. Now, your spirit can come back. If it ends up in the good way, where we believe 90% of the people who die go, then it takes a year for what we would consider a year for the 4 seasons cycle before you're at that place where you can come back if you choose to do so. Now, you can come back as a spirit guide. You can come back as an animal, physical animal, but you can travel back and forth. But you can't stay forever in one or the other. And so, like in our beliefs, the crow, kakagoose, is the only animal. That's the only living thing that we can see that can actually make decisions on what life it wants to be in. It can actually go from our world to the spirit world, and as easy as we can walk out of this union and into this union, and as routine as that. But our spirits, when they're off into the spirit world, if you want to come back, you can come back as another person. You have a choice. You can come back and you can be born, and you can go through another life. If you do that, you get on. We believe that there is something that you didn't achieve or learn in the life you just left, so you need to go back and you need to learn that. Because when people start praying and they say, "Galajijik nogamis, Galajijik Muslims," good grandmothers and good grandfathers, would joke, "Gammon, come help me." When you're praying for the good grandmothers and the good grandfathers to come, if you have something that you didn't learn in life, you can't come. So you could be born again and go through this life cycle again, learn your thing, and die, and then eventually you can be called in by your ancestors. So you can literally call them to help you, to walk with you, to give you strength, to give you protection. And so in a nutshell, that's what we look at as the afterlife. And when your body goes into the earth, that it can only be visited for 1 year, because that's when your body is no longer part of anything that was ever living before. It becomes part of the earth again, even though the body is not broken down to dust. That takes 20, 25 years, but the way in which we believe is that you should not visit a body after that amount of time, because you keep that memory of who that person was alive, and what if they wanted to be another person? What if they wanted to come back as an animal or a spirit guide? You're constantly pulling them spiritually away from their world. And so you let them die. You let them be dead. And you just have the memory of that person. But not necessarily keep calling their spirit back. I don't know if that makes any sense, but to me it does, but I've lived that, so.
And if in that case, like, what's your opinion on ghosts? Like,
well,
what we believe are ghosts?
Well, there's two things we believe in ghosts. And that is that, first of all, if you're a ghost, we look at that as a restful spirit. A spirit that doesn't know that they're dead because they were alive at one time. Or a spirit that likes you and just, hangs. And then we do have the kind of understanding of residual energy too, and that's in a traumatic. If you die in a traumatic way, then it's like rewind, play through kind of thing. Where if a spirit's not acknowledging you when you say "Gekekiltaliwis," what's your name, and the spirit doesn't even look at you, then that's just energy that's still there, and that's nothing we can touch. That's something that has to take care of itself, and it does over time. It'll understand that that residual energy needs to go somewhere, and but if we see a spirit, I've grown up in a place that was filled with soil, and the reason for that, it was a swampy area, and before that, people with smallpox were buried there. So probably about 15, 20 feet down were graves, many graves. And I've seen a lot of things growing up that I wish I never had seen, been pushed, been attacked, been, kind of harassed as a child. And I was a little guy. I mean, when I was graduated from high school, I was 120 pounds and 5'7". And so that's when I graduated from high school. Can you imagine when I was a little kid? I was 4'9" forever, and I remember that, just being 4'9", wishing I could break 5 feet. I don't know when it happened, but it wasn't too hard to throw me around. And I've woken up and I had a globe, an earth globe of the earth in my room, and when how they're tilted, when you spin it. It was kind of one of those ones that I won, and it was made out of cardboard, and it was in a stand that when you turn it, it would squeak. Mm-hmm. And I woke up one night, and I heard this turning and squeaking, and my room wasn't that big. And when I looked, I didn't dare to open my eyes. I knew I was going to see something, and I did open my eyes. And it was like no further than you and I. And he was a native guy. I mean, it was very obvious he was a native guy. And I looked at him and I said to him, who are you? What's your name? I didn't know who. I thought it was somebody in my room. And he just turned his head and looked at me and looked really mad. And he reminded me of my uncle, and I was just thinking, oh my God, he's going to hit me. My uncle was a dick, and still is. And so when he looked at me, I immediately looked down because I was looking for my blanket to pull up, And when I did look down, there were no feet, so he was from the waist up. And then he just was gone, just not even evaporated, not even disappeared, gone. But there were other times where they physically moved things into the house, and got me in trouble because things were not supposed to be where they were, and I got in trouble a couple of times. My mother never believed me until something finally happened to her.